Hi, YouTube friends. It's Eden here. I'm so sorry I am like 22 minutes late for the scheduled workshop. I had to actually go into YouTube and create a completely new event because YouTube changed its event settings and I just couldn't turn on the workshop. So I finally stopped trying to figure it out and I just started a completely brand new event because I didn't want to disappoint you guys even more by just not showing up. So sometimes tech issues happen, but here I am. And I've been thinking the past couple of weeks, and I've been suggesting it probably for the last year or two to certain people who contact me trying to figure out what they want their first product to be, but they can't really decide and so forth. But I wanted to do a full-on workshop on this, how to create DIY kits. So I've been thinking about it and I was thinking of doing a paid workshop on it. And then someone asked me in the questions of a video I had done what I thought about DIY kits, how to start, and so forth. And I thought, well, why don't I just do two community workshops that aren't paid, one on skincare and one on hair care on creating DIY kits. Not necessarily on a subscription model. That's a whole other thing that, for example, Curl Mix, I believe they are doing. They're doing a fantastic job with that. But this is just for people who want to just create one first kit and continually sell that kit, which I think is a more economical way for most artisanal beautypreneurs to start, is to only have one focus and mass produce that focus before they start diversifying into subscription models or having different kinds of kits. And you can get into that later. However, kits are useful for various things. I'm going to talk about the anchors of a really good kit, like what you need to make your kit stand out, what you need to make your kit actually user-friendly, because the more user-friendly it is, the more likely someone is to use it, the more likely they are to recommend it and talk about it in their social media or whatever, and the more likely they are to rebuy it or to buy new kits as you come out with them. So you want to do that. And also how to customize kits and how to make specific kits, where to get your things. I'm just going to stick in this broadcast to things that are in the United States. In my paid workshops, I do give resources to things in different countries, but it'll just be too scattered if I start doing that here. And I'll give you tips and tricks on how to Google and find the things that you need in your particular region, wherever you may be. Okay, so let's get into skincare and why kits. Who do kits cater to? DIY kits cater obviously to DIY enthusiasts. It caters to minimalists who don't want to continually buy a lot of product with a lot of packaging, right? It caters to people who are purists, who want to make sure that, my screen is frozen. Is it frozen for you guys? Please go ahead and put in the chat if it's frozen for you guys. Okay, so I'm unfrozen now. That's good. It caters to purists who don't want any kind of impure anything in their product, who really don't want to use chemicals, who don't want to use preservatives that they've never heard of. People who have very specific skincare needs and challenges. Maybe you have eczema or you have a very compromised immune system due to a certain kind of illness. And you really, really have to be careful. You have severe allergies to things and you want to know exactly what went into your products, because people don't always disclose everything that's in their product. Anything that's less than 1% in your product, you don't have to disclose on your label. But whatever that thing is, if it's 0.9% of something that you're allergic to, it still affects you the same way, regardless of whether it's 1% or not. So people who are discerning about things like that, who are concerned about things like that, they want to know what's in their product and they're willing to make it themselves. There's some people realize that you can have the best DIY kit with the best instructions and the most supported kit in terms of user friendliness, in terms of the customer support you give. But there are some people who will never do it themselves. So don't fool yourself into thinking that everyone is your customer. You're looking for a very specific type of human being to buy your kit. So always be speaking to that person, okay? And just shut the other thing out of being lured by the trap of thinking that you're going to create the one thing that everyone is going to buy. So again, niching down in your messaging becomes important. Okay, and DIY kits also appeal to people who want an economical product. So people who don't have a large, extensive budget, they have a need for the DIY products. And if you can introduce them to the world of DIY through your kit, it's very helpful. It's a service. DIY kits are also very easy to market because we constantly have to be giving people education in order to have them know what to do with the kit and to understand why they should be making their own things and so forth. And for me, education is always the free gift that you give to people, right? Regardless of whether they buy from you or not. It's just a free gift. It's like, welcome to my home, have a cup of tea. You're not charging for the tea that you give to your visitors. So all your visitors, you give them the gift of free education. And then if they want to go deeper, you go into that monetary exchange where they actually purchase a product and take it away with them. But you'll never be short of things to talk about. You should never be short of things to talk about, regardless of whether your product is packaged or DIY or whatever. But with a DIY kit, there's always, always, always things to talk about and show. Okay, so what is the cornerstone of a good skincare DIY kit? A good skincare DIY kit needs to be based on a regimen, okay? You can't just throw random stuff together and be like, this is good for skin, that is good for skin, this is good for skin, here are some recipes. You have to walk people through a regimen, okay? So there are a lot of products that promise this and that, but they don't really do anything for people. We've all been in that situation where we've bought a product that either doesn't work for us or doesn't do what it says it's going to do because it's just not physically possible to do that, and so forth. But when you look at regimens, they're usually based on key things with skin. So with skin, you're looking at cleansing the skin. You're looking at polishing the skin, so usually exfoliation of some sort. You look at maybe nourishing the skin, right? So we're talking serums, we're talking creams and oils, okay? So nourishing, providing nutrients that penetrate deeply. Toning, it just depends. Toning can go into many different realms. It can go into hydration, it can go into cleaning, it can go into moisturizing. But really, you're looking at cleansing, polishing, and nourishing. Those would be the main things that a skincare product is going to do. Okay, so you want to teach people how to create a regimen, like how often should they clean, and what are the different kinds of cleansers they should use. How often should they exfoliate, and what are the different kinds of exfoliants they should use. What kind of hydration do they need for their skin? Because just putting oil on top of dry skin isn't enough, right? Usually when you have a cream, it has a mixture of water and oil, so that can work, right? But really, you want a mixture of both things happening there. And so hydration and nourishment, right? So how are you going to clean? How are you going to exfoliate? How are you going to tone? How are you going to hydrate? How are you going to nourish your skin? These are all things that you need to be talking about in the regimen of how to properly take care of your skin. And so, you can do a skincare kit that is customizable. So you just have a set amount of ingredients and then you have different recipes for different skincare needs. Or you can just do a kit that's like, I'm only doing anti-aging for people in dry climates, or I'm only doing anti-aging for people in this demographic, or I'm only doing teenage problem skin, maybe teenage skin that is suffering from acne. That's all I'm doing. So you can do either approach. Usually I say choose specifically one, but in this particular case, because you are creating a booklet, which I'm going to get into, that goes with your kit, you have the freedom to create different kinds of recipes, right? And you can keep updating the booklet. You can say, here is your physical booklet. Here's a copy. Here's a link to the online booklet. As I discover more recipes or create more recipes, I will always be updating the booklet, so that can be an incentive for people to buy, just so they can have access to that booklet, regardless of whether they rebuy the kit or not. But that booklet is key to getting them to use the products properly, to stick to a regimen, and to get the best use out of it so that their skin is healthy and happy and glowing and they really want to rebuy, right? So all those things are going to be important. So you don't want to overthink your booklet, okay? You can write this quickly. The part that you really want to work hard on, like people focus on, how do I assemble the ingredients and what should I do, and that will become obvious once you've done the first component, which is really experimenting yourself. This is going to, I think all products require that you experiment on yourself as well, but this is going to require that you really experiment with actual human beings, including yourself, in finding a regimen that works. Like, how do you conquer this thing of a child that has a problem scalp and maybe problem skin? How do you figure that out? So all your little experiments, you really need to be researching, like, what works, what kind of regimen works. If I cleanse too often, does it make my skin dry? If I cleanse with this versus that, I can cleanse every day or even twice a day, and my skin stays nourished and hydrated. So starting to understand that will help you create your regimen. And of course, doing research, like I always say, in looking at the comments on YouTube videos, looking at reviews on Amazon products, going to blogs and forums and so forth, and seeing what people are needing and how people are responding to things, right? So you do your research on what could work, you play with those ingredients, you figure out a regimen. Then once you get to writing your book, you can write it really quickly. You can, a lot of you have voice apps on your phone, on your smartphone, where you can just sort of talk into the phone and be like, give yourself little voice notes, right? And collect lots of notes. If you are using a laptop, you can voice record. A lot of times Microsoft has a voice recorder. I'm sure the Apple equivalent products have some kind of voice recorder that you can easily record your voice. So you can do some talking points, right? And then just talk into the voice recorder and do different sections, so call each thing a chapter or a section of a chapter. A section of a chapter. And so you name your recordings in a certain way. And then you can use software to translate those recordings into writing. So by the time you get to editing what you've written, you've done that easily within a week, a few weeks, and then you're already well into the process, as opposed to sitting there and typing everything yourself, right? Or if you have the budget for it, you can send those transcriptions, you can send just the recording off to a place to have them transcribe it. And then send the transcriptions to an editor to organize it for you. And you can find all those kinds of services and places on places like Upwork.com. If you just Google transcribing services, you can go to Fiverr to have someone create a quick ebook cover for you, or you can do it yourself in Canva.com. But just don't overthink it. Okay, so create the book on a regimen, on a, just the basics of skincare and why you've assembled certain ingredients. Maybe you can do a section on ingredients where you go into detail on what each ingredient does, and how to use it, why it's important, why it's a cornerstone of your regimen, and so forth. And then the part you'll actually have to write down are your actual recipes. So as you go, just start creating your recipes and writing down the proportions and so forth, because they're going to be a key part of selling your product. And the recipes is another thing. People get really fearful about this. But the recipes are also going to be part of your marketing. You're going to give your recipes away for free, right? However, eventually when people keep seeing your recipes and they see how they can use different things and so forth, eventually they're not going to want to go and shop for 5 different things here and there. There's a certain economical person who will do that, and that's fine. That person will actually be kind of like an evangelist for your brand, and they'll tell other people about things. But not everyone has the energy for that. Some people are busy. They have 2 or 3 jobs and they look after kids or an aging parent, or they themselves are low energy, don't have a lot of time or energy. They just want to get it and have it be in their house and have everything together. And that person is your customer. So always be speaking to that and not feeling stingy or resentful or sort of nickel and diming people for every little thing. Because, there's an attitude that doesn't speak of generosity. And if you aren't generous yourself, it means you believe that the world itself is not generous with you. So how could you ever be successful doing that? You'll never be happy. It's just an uncomfortable feeling. People can feel it, in your messaging and the way you present yourself, and they won't want to buy from you anyway. So don't be stingy. Just be completely generous with your information. And just know that the people who are ready to buy the kits will show up through that, once you've laid the proper framework out for them to do that. Okay. And in a separate, maybe next week I'll come back and I'll talk about creating proper pathways for people to find you through marketing, authentic marketing, because that's a huge fear for a lot of people that I'm getting in emails and messages and comments and so forth. So, we'll talk about that in a separate workshop, or else we'll be here forever. But once you've done that, you've created your booklet, you've created your foundation, and maybe the recipes can come last once you've done the research. But what you want to create categories of things. So you want to create a category of cleansers, a category of exfoliants, a category of hydrators, which is very important to skin, because our skin needs oil and water. Literally the cells have an oil component and a water component. So when you're feeding the cells, you need to give them both components, right? You need nourishment. So that's usually oils and butters. You need treatments, right? So some kind of an ability to create a mask of some sort. You need some sort of toning options. So an ability to create toners is going to be important. So let's talk about the cleansing category. What would you include in the cleansing category? Now, I'm not saying include all these things, but these are options of things you can include. You can include concentrates of things. So you make a face wash, but usually a face wash, like a bottled face wash that you buy, is usually a portion of soap and water. That's really all it is. Then they start adding other things to make it fancy. So they add thickeners, right? They because people feel like if you just have a runny sort of liquid, like this sort of liquid, and that's all it looks like, they'll feel like it's cheap. So they have to add things to thicken it so it pours out slowly and gives that sort of rich look. So, you know, you can have something that's really concentrated that they can then add an herbal tea to, or add aloe to, or add, you know, more water to create their custom face wash. You can just do like, you know, a brick of black soap that they can grate and create their own face washes with. You can do an oil blend, right? So you can put various oils together, or just give them different oils that they can mix together to create an oil cleansing blend. You can do cleansing grains, right? You can do various powders. You can do bamboo powder. There are different kinds of cleansing grains that you can use. So you can give them that option on how to clean their face. You can do various clays. You can do honey. So you can provide them an infused honey, you know, that's already been infused with herbs, and then they can use that honey in various applications in the you know, the regimen that you set for them in the booklet. Okay, so the next category you're going to go to is exfoliants. So salt and sugar, probably not for the face, but if you're doing a body care, if you're doing like a head to toe skincare, you can include salt and sugar, or you can include salt and sugar recipes and just give them the things to put in the salt and sugar. Mud and clay actually make great exfoliants for the face. Honey is a great exfoliant because it has raw honey, that is, because it has live enzymes, and the live enzymes kind of help to eat away the dead skin cells. Jojoba beads, which you see in a lot of these sort of store-bought body wash type things, you can give them some of those. They're not as eco, but you know, they are gentle to the skin, at least. Loofah, that's an easy thing to include and very inexpensive for you to include different loofah mitts or an actual loofah. You can give them a recipe for how to create soap and pour it in the loofah so that they can have a soap that already has a loofah in it for exfoliating their arms and bodies and so forth. You can do rami mitts, which are these gloves that are sort of thick and very exfoliating and very gentle at the same time. That's a nice thing to include in a body care kit. A dry skin brush is a great thing, and it gives you a lot to talk about in the brochure or the booklet that you include, because dry skin brushing also does other things for the body, like moving lymph around, like helping with cellulite when done on the thighs and so forth, as well as serving the purpose of exfoliating. And, you know, if you apply a body butter to, you know, to your body after you shower, and if you've dry skin brush before you shower, the body, you know, the butter is going to sink in more easily. So sometimes people think butters aren't moisturizing. And the problem really is that they have a lot of dead skin, so the butter isn't able to penetrate the skin, or the oil isn't able to penetrate the skin. So explaining to people why exfoliating is really important is going to be a part of your brochure. And you guys, if you have questions, you're welcome to enter them in the chat. And so the next section would be hydration. What kind of hydrators are you going to put in your kit? So some option would be seaweed gels, something like sea kelp bioferment, which you can get, you know, easily in the United States, Canada, for sure the United Kingdom, possibly Australia. Other countries, you might struggle a little bit more there. But seaweed gels are really great hydrators that you can add, that people can create their own serums with. They can create eye gels with. A fresh aloe leaf, to actually put a whole leaf of aloe, because it's easy to ship a leaf of aloe, right? Not cut like that, but when it comes sealed at the bottom. And so you can easily ship aloe to someone. You know, just get like really big, long boxes from some place like Uline. So you can wrap the aloe nicely so it doesn't get punctured. And then you add all the different additives you want people to use with that fresh aloe leaf. And obviously for refills, they can go to their grocery store, to their health food store, to the maybe sometimes Latino markets, local Latino markets will have an aloe leaf. But those are all things that you can talk about and add and talk about the different ways they can use the aloe. Just aloe juice, fresh aloe juice that you would get at a health food store, or some grocery stores offer that as well. Hyaluronic acid just comes in powder form, so you would teach them how to use the hyaluronic acid to create serums or to add to their face creams. Vitamin C, water-soluble vitamin C, as well as oil-soluble vitamin C. They can have both or one or the other. Betaine, I've seen it sold in the form of a beet extract, under the name of Veggie Moist at Ingredients to Die For. They call it Veggie Moist. So VEGEMOIST. And that really is great at trapping moisture in the skin as well as the hair. So maybe adding a little bit of that powder for them to add to things. So that those are all examples of hydrating things that you can have people do. And of course, good old glycerin. That's very hydrating. Nourishing things. So all the various oils and butters. So you can have a selection of oils, some light oils that aren't too thick, and some dry oils that are better for leaving on, and maybe some wetter oils, so you can combine dry and wet oils, and obviously some heavier oils. So you kind of have a range for people's needs if you're doing a customizable box where people can customize according to their skincare needs. Or you can do things that are very specific to your niche. And it's also good to maybe include an herbal infusion for people so they don't have to go through the process of infusing herbs. So you can add an herb infused oil along with a selection of other oils so that they can mix and match their own, thing according to the recipes you provide. Toners, vinegar. So you can, again, include an herb-infused vinegar for their convenience. You can also just include plain vinegar because apple cider vinegar makes an amazing toner. You can add witch hazel, which you can get from any of these crafting supply places. You can include one or more hydrosols, whether it be a rose hydrosol or a lavender, rosemary, a calendula, whatever kind of hydrosol you want to include. Hydrosols are when essential oils are distilled. Most essential oils are distilled. Some are cold pressed, like the citrus ones, but most essential oils are distilled. And in the distillation process, once the oil has, evaporated and been removed, there's a remaining water portion that comes off. And so that is the hydrosol. And it also is full of really great things for skin and hair as well. But we're talking about skincare here. So you can get a few hydrosols if you want. Hydrosols also a great way to add scent, right? Because a lot of the hydrosols will have the aroma of the plant. So sometimes it's less expensive. Like it's less expensive to create something rose scented that has rose hydrosol than it is to use $150 per ounce rose essential oil. So that can be something, to think about as well. Herbs, various herbs, giving them a selection of herbs that are specific, and don't overwhelm them with like 50 things, just choose 3 or 4 that are key, that are easy to customize. Some good choices would be rose powder, that you can get that relatively inexpensive. You can do some frankincense tears that people would use in aqueous things or use in infusions. You can do lavender, rosemary, helichrysum, which is really great because the essential oil is really expensive. So being able to infuse that into, say, a really light oil like a sunflower oil, or to create a tea would be good. You could do all manner of things. You can do cactus powders, like nopal cactus powder. I absolutely love for hydrating and plumping up the skin. And it works well in hair as well. You can do something like yucca for or yucca, soap nuts, soapwort, um, aretha, which is also, I believe, is another word for soap nuts in the Ayurvedic terminology. Those things are naturally sudsing herbs, so people can make face washes with some of these things. So something like that would be interesting to add. All of the anti-aging things would be interesting to add. All of the very healing things like calendula and plantain, if you're doing a thing for problem skin, but if you're doing a customizable thing, try to have something for anti-aging, something for problem skin, something for oily skin. Neem, tulsi, those are all great for Tulsi is great for the oily skin. Neem is great for both oily skin and normal skin, as well as for problem skin. It really helps to heal those things. And neem oil really, really stinks. I mean, I feel like it smells like beef stew. So if you can infuse neem leaf into an oil and put it there for them, and it has no smell, but it has all of those benefits, that's amazing. Or you can just give them the powder. They can make tea and they can mix that in their face wash, in their whatever. Another thing you can do is you can help people make soaps. So you could do a thing that was just on soaps. And so you could include maybe some black soap, and then you could include like just regular bars of a plain soap that they can grate, and then they can add these different powders to. They can melt it together and then put it in a silicone mold. I meant to bring my silicone mold. I'm sorry, but a silicone mold that has different squares in it. And so they can melt things and then they can put it in the mold and they can pop out their own customizable soap that they've added powders to and essential oils to. Essential oils are another thing that you can include in that kit. So you really want to be thinking about the kind of regimen. This is why having a regimen before you decide on your ingredients and before you create your recipes is really important, right? So having a regimen that either people can customize according to their skin type, or that if you're doing just one type, really helps you to figure out, the choices go from 20 to like 5 things, right? Once you've figured out, oh, okay, this is what I could do. This is what the problem is. This is how I cater to it. And, obviously doing things according to your budget. Little nice touches that you can add are things like including little mixing bowls. So you can do little mixing bowls. You can buy little sushi plates, the little sushi plates for your like soy sauce. You can buy those in bulk. Those are really great. You can include nice wooden chopsticks that don't cost much, with a nice finish, that people can stir things with. You can, include bottles that people can store their like toner or vinegar water or whatever in. There are different little nice touches that you can add that really don't cost you much. They may cost you 30 cents. They may cost you $5. But if you're selling a box for like $40, then it's a nice touch to add. So those are all ideas for creating a DIY box. And it kind of takes the pressure off of you if you are the kind of person who has a hard time deciding. And it's a great opportunity for you to move into teaching. And I'm really hoping that a lot of you, once you get your feet wet and you become more comfortable, you'll start teaching like the way I share and teach, because, that's how we're going to change this industry, all of us together, doing these sort of things. And there's all kinds of groups of people that you can reach out to who value these things, whether it be frugal moms, maybe it's someone who adopts or fosters a lot of kids and they're like, wow, how am I gonna make this happen? And they value clean ingredients on top of that. Maybe it's a homesteader who wants to use, the things around them and so forth. You can also create, I wanted to say in the process of, one of the things you can create, I held up this black soap here, but one of the things you can create is, and this is another thing that I somehow failed to bring to the live stream, and I don't want to get up and be rude in the middle of it to go get it, but a base block basically looks like a bar of soap. But I create base blocks for conditioner. It's a very easy way to make conditioner and to customize conditioner. So you can easily create a similar base block for your lotions and creams. So you can put a base block or two in your kit, and then give them recipes on how to customize them to turn those base blocks into a cream or a lotion, if they prefer to do that, as opposed to using oils, or if they like to use both, they like to alternate. Those are all things that you can do. And basically, to create base blocks, it's usually mixing emulsifiers. So in the case of skincare, it can be any of the olive waxes that are on the market now. There's so many really nice olive waxes. It can be regular vegetable emulsifying wax. It can be any number of the things that you find on these sites that are gentle and considered eco, that are emulsifiers, right? So you mix those with some oils and butters, or just oils, and then you allow people to add water, add extracts, and that's another thing you can do. You can buy extracts in bulk and then just portion them off in smaller bottles. So for people to customize their stuff, you can definitely include a preservative in there for them, for goodness sake. And because it's a DIY, they're making it themselves, they know when they're using it. You can include the most natural preservatives that there are, because it's not for sale. So you can include the things like the honeysuckle extract, elderberry extract, some of these Lucona stock radish root type preservatives that aren't maybe as tested on the market, but they will definitely preserve something that someone is using at home for 3 months, no problem. And if you want to, you can include the stronger ones, like the stronger paraben-free, let's emphasize, ones like phenoxyethanol, which is what you'll find in a lot of health food stores. Okay, if you're thinking, oh, that sounds really chemical and not usable, it's actually pretty gentle. So definitely include a preservative. You can include little empty bottles. This is not an empty bottle. This is just a product that I like to use. But, you can include things that make their life easier, right? So they don't have to now order things just to support the kit that they ordered from you. So bottles, jars, little pump bottles, little, tiny bottles like this, for example, that they can put their essential oil blend in. If you give them, 3 or 4 different essential oils that they can blend, or if you haven't blended it yourself for them. So there are multiple things that, but really think it through. Like, if I were receiving this kit, with the exception of a blender and, a stove, whatever, do you have things that need to be heated at certain temperatures? Include a thermometer, or you can have an upgraded kit. You can have a kit that only has ingredients, or you can have, the upgrade that has all the stuff that they need, all the equipment that they need, all the bottles and the packaging. That just becomes a way to create an upsell, right? And to start creating a relationship, and then that person who's bought the equipment, as you do future boxes, you can be like, hey, I just created, I know you did problem skin. You bought the problem skin box. Now I have one for anti-aging if you want to make gifts for, your mom, or for Christmas, or I have one for, extreme climates. I have one for this, that, or the other. So you can start doing little bags that are like refill bags for the people who have bought the full-on thing where you just like, hey, I have a little re-up bag on herbs. I have a little re-up bag on oils. I have a little re-up bag on this, because sometimes people only need one thing. And for those of us who craft, we know that you're not going to be able to get every single thing at a quality that you like from one place. You usually have to shop different places. So you have to understand before you count yourself out of the game by saying, oh, well, they can just buy it more cheaply here and this. It's just like, if I could just order all my things from one place, I would totally do that, because when I'm doing really big orders for like a private label client, or for I'm teaching a class, or I'm helping a client with a shopping list, I take into account all the things like shipping. Shipping can be expensive. It can be $40, $50 if you're buying several gallons of things. I take into account, how fast is the shipping? I just ordered something that I thought would be in a few days. They gave me literally an arrival date that's like 2.5 weeks from the day that I ordered. So I'm like, oh my gosh, you've got to be kidding me, right? So all those things factor into people's decisions to buy. So if you can make it easy for them, you can make it convenient for them, you can make it so that they just get everything in one place. They get the information in one place, they get the recipes in one place, they get the ingredients in one place, they get the equipment to use the ingredients properly in one place, and it costs under $100. Yeah, they'll buy it if they're really serious about learning this. And if they're listening to you anyway, and watching you on your channel, or following you on Instagram, they're serious about doing this. And some of them may never be your customers. They'll just kind of mess around with it themselves at home, but they'll appreciate you and help to boost your rankings by commenting on your things and liking your things. And it's a blessing, because nobody likes to talk to the air. It's nice to know that people are actually watching the things that you've put the effort into sharing, right? Or reading the things you've written, or liking the pictures that you took 20 minutes to put together in Canva. So all of those things are important. All of those things are a part of it. And it opens up many doors for you. There are suppliers who started off just by doing kits, that ended up becoming bigger suppliers when they started, So it's a doorway. It's an entry point, and it's relatively easy. And you don't have to worry about a lot of the things that bog people down, like packaging and this and that. You can do things simply. You don't have to become Curl Mix overnight, right? So you can start small, and you can start specific, and then you can expand. Yeah, I don't know if any of you have questions. I don't see any questions in the chat. Maybe some of you will ask questions in the comment or so forth, but I'm probably going to end on that note. And tomorrow, Friday at 9:30, and yes, it will be 9:30 exactly, not 20 minutes later like it was today. God forbid Facebook actually changed their live setup so that I have to struggle, but usually it's just a button. So I will be live on Facebook 9:30 Pacific time, which is 12:30 Eastern time, United States. And so the rest of you can calculate from there. I don't want to go to a different screen just to look up what time it is in England and what have you. But I will be doing the same thing I did here, but doing it on hair care. So if you're a hair care aficionado, that's your speed, that's your deal. You can go and find me on Facebook. I'll put the link to my Facebook page in the description after YouTube posts this, after I, shut down the broadcast. And it's Prosper in Beauty. That's the name of my Facebook page. So I try to go live there a few times a week. This past 2 weeks I haven't, because I've just been bogged down with assignments and so forth. But I had to come to YouTube so I don't neglect you guys too long. And I have to go to Facebook so I don't neglect those guys too long, so I can be fair to everyone. But I hope this was helpful. If it was, feel free to give it a like. and comment below if you have more questions, if there's something else you'd like me to cover. Those questions are helpful. You could get a free workshop out of it or a low-cost paid workshop out of it. So ask your questions, guys. And yeah, that's it for now. I hope that this video finds you well. If you're watching the replay, those of you that joined me live, thanks for sticking around. I hope it was helpful to you. And take care, you guys. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. And I will see you in the next broadcast. Okay, take care. Bye-bye.